I just gave them half a pack of instant noodles. They gave me a full set of fusion technology. All because I have a space-time trading platform. I can trade items with people from other worlds. Later, I traded a cookie for railguns and rifles. I even got a starship for a pack of spicy strips. As long as I can provide what they need, I can get resources Earth doesn't even have. Even an elixir of immortality is within reach. I'm sitting in the trade space for my first met. A woman in armor appears on the other side. State your requirements. What would you like to trade? Non-polluted water and natural food on this list. I need all of it, he gestured. The list was filled with various items. Grain, vegetables, and purified water. All must be non-polluted and radiation-free. Looking at these items, it felt like I was browsing a supermarket online. Her armor suggests high-level technology. Wanting non-polluted, radiation-free food. Could she be from a wasteland world? Food scarcity. My heart skipped a beat. I can provide all these items. What do you intend to trade with? What do you need? Xuanxing frowned. Neither side knows the other's special products. She's willing to state her needs first. Probably because I'm a newcomer. If I reveal what I can trade too, it wouldn't help with price negotiations. I wasn't surprised by her answer. My eyes shifted. I focused on her armor. You want power armor? It's not impossible to negotiate. 10,000 tons of radiation-free, clean grain. If you can provide that, I can take it off for you right now. The girl and her armor. I was instantly tempted, but then I shook my head. I can't afford 10,000 tons of grain right now. I pondered for a moment. I need gold. Seeing her power armor, I knew their tech is decades ahead of Earth's. Truth be told, trading grain for tech is the best deal. The problem is I'm just an ordinary guy. Even if I got some black tech, I probably couldn't cash it in. The first thing to do is get rich on Earth. With capital in hand, cashing in tech becomes simple. Xuanxing nodded. Gold for grain is fine, but show me the data on your common grain first, so I can estimate the value. Not all grain is priced the same. I understood what she meant, but I didn't know how to organize it. Potatoes popped into my mind. Luckily, the data appeared on the light screen, so that's how it works. I immediately got the idea. Rice, wheat, sweet potatoes flashed in my mind. After organizing the common staples of Earth, I swiped and sent it over. She looked for a while. Xuanxing gave her price. 1 kilogram of gold for 1 ton of rice. The trade is mainly for rice. I nodded calmly. Rice is plentiful, but I think we should discuss the price. The price is definitely negotiable. Xuanxing smiled. I pondered slightly. Testing the waters. 50 kilograms of gold for a ton of rice. Xuanxing clapped her hands. She agreed without hesitation. I felt like a fool. I asked for too little. I underestimated the value of food to her and overestimated the value of gold to her. But this regret lasted only a second. I pushed it out of my mind. 50 kilograms of gold for a ton of grain. It's basically free money, not to mention, even if I only sell 1 ton this time, 50 kilograms of gold is enough to give me a headache. Instead of being greedy, I'd rather build a good relationship. I still want to buy her power armor later, since the unit price is set. How much rice can you provide now? Coming back to my senses, I checked my savings. I'll provide 10 tons for our first cooperation. If it goes well, we can continue trading. Xuanxing had no objections. She stood up. Wait a moment. She slowly disappeared from where she stood. When she reappeared, she had a metal box in her hand. Xuanxing placed it on the table and pushed it toward me. I suppressed my excitement and quickly opened the box in the meeting room. Under the bright lights, a golden glow reflected from the box. It almost blinded me. 1050 kilograms gold bars. 500 kilograms of gold. Here is your gold. When can you deliver? Xuanxing raised her chin. I didn't expect payment in advance. This is the best client I've ever seen. Thinking of this, I quickly said, I'll have 10 tons of rice to you within 7 days. Is there anything else you need? You can make a list for me. We can estimate the price now, so I can bring it next time. I uploaded data on items I can buy in bulk. The two finally reached a consensus. No matter how much supplies I collect, Xuanxing will pay in gold at the set price. If gold is insufficient, other things can be used to offset the debt. Local specialties from her world. Mechanical exoskeletons, railgun rifles, genetic serums. Besides these finished products, Xuanxing can also get a lot of tech. In short, every single item is worth more than this 500 kilograms of gold. Back in my exclusive agent space, so you looked at the box in front of him. He couldn't describe his excitement. 500 kilograms of gold at current market prices is worth nearly 200 million. Even if I sell it through shady channels, I can still get a fortune. What is getting rich overnight? This is getting rich overnight. But after the excitement, he had to consider realistic problems. Platform, how do I bring items in or out? To trade. Forget about 10 tons of grain. If the platform doesn't have some black tech, I have to move this 500 kilograms of gold piece by piece. Hearing his question, the answer appeared on the white wall. Junior agents get 10 storage slots. Each slot can hold up to 1,000 cubic meters in volume, and 1,000 tons of the same type of item. Just think about the personal panel, visible only to you. Suyu tried it immediately. Sure enough, as soon as he spoke, a light blue translucent panel appeared, similar to the one from the trade. It had many functions. The storage space was in the bottom right. There were 10 empty slots. Lie in inventory. The transport problem is solved. Suyu breathed a sigh of relief. He reached out and touched the gold. The 10 large gold bars in the box immediately disappeared, and his personal panel inventory showed a gold icon. Send me back. Suyu stood up and stretched, becoming an agent for the trading platform. It's hard not to get rich. He couldn't wait to return to Earth to prepare the items for the next trade. Sure enough, compared to working for others, working for yourself is more motivating. Forget about 996. I do 007 as long as I don't drop dead. If I frown even a little, it would be disrespectful to this goal. Transferring now. In the next second, Suyu's vision blurred. The silver-white space disappeared, replaced by his familiar apartment. Suyu quickly pulled up the panel, finding it was still there. He took out a piece of gold, feeling the real weight of the 50 kilograms bar. He let out a long breath. Not a dream. He checked the time. It was past 2 in the afternoon. Not too late. Still time to get things done. Suyu thought for a moment. He took the gold bar to the kitchen. The volume was like a small brick. If I dared to take this to exchange for money, I'd probably scare someone to death. Luckily, gold is soft. You can cut it with a knife. Suyu spent a long time. Finally, he cut the 50 kilograms gold bar into a dozen pieces of various sizes. He put them into the storage space. He searched for nearby gold shops on his phone and picked one that wasn't too far. An inconspicuous gold shop, ready to try selling a piece of gold. Once everything was ready, he took out the trash and left his home, looking completely normal. But as soon as he stepped out, a phone call came in. Seeing the note for his former team leader, Suyu hesitated for a moment and chose to answer, being laid off. If this had happened a few hours ago, saying I had no resentment, that would be a lie. But now, I should thank the company. Otherwise, I wouldn't have found the platform and wouldn't have become an agent. Of course, I don't care anymore, but letting those who relied on connections push me out, I won't give them a knife face. That's impossible. If not for the fact that the company does trade, and I might need them for future deals, I wouldn't even bother answering. Little Sue. How are you? Found a new job. As soon as the call connected, the team leader's greasy voice rang out. Suyu had a bad impression of him and couldn't be bothered to talk. He said impatiently, I'm heading out now. If you have something to say, just say it. He didn't forget to press the elevator button before the elevator arrived. If this guy couldn't get to the point, then forget it. The team leader didn't seem to care about his home. He laughed and said, I was just worried you didn't have a job. I thought I'd use my connections to help you. It's also an overseas trade, similar to what you did before. You can start working immediately. I've already put in a good word. It's definitely not bad. I'm not going. Suyu said without thinking. The team he was in before was full of people with connections. The guy surnamed Xian, as the leader, didn't dare to act like a bot to others. Only when facing me, who had no connections. Could he act like a leader? He was always disgusting. Forget about being an agent now. Even without this identity, I would still refuse. The team leader didn't expect Suyu would refuse without thinking. After a moment of silence, he said coldly, Little Sue, you need to think clearly. The economy is bad now. Jobs aren't easy to find, especially in your field. Seeing he was going to keep rambling, Suyu interrupted him. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Wait, the team leader said, you need to think. If I remember correctly, you closed a big deal last month. The commission should be high. You'll get 20,000 or so this month. Only if the deal is fine. Can you get that commission? If there's a problem. As the elevator arrived, Suyu's last bit of patience ran out. He said bluntly, I recorded this call. If I find a single cent missing, we'll see each other in court. Also, do you really think you're a big shot? Don't push your luck. Calling you leader is giving you face. What are you, asshole? Click, he hung up. Suyu breathed a sigh of relief. Awesome. I've wanted to scold this bully for a long time. Today, even if I hadn't gotten the platform. This promising path. Even if I had nothing, I wouldn't give that leader a knife face. The elevator door opened. Suyu, who had just finished scolding someone, saw a girl in a JK outfit inside, looking at him in surprise. Her eyes seemed to say, wow, this guy has no manners. But Suyu didn't care at all. He smiled at the girl and closed the elevator door. Good things happen. I'm in a good mood. I don't care what passersby think. I just want to get out and cash in the gold. Wanfu Gold, one of the biggest in the city, located in a busy pedestrian street, about 10 kilometers from my place. Attack 11 ride takes about 10 minutes. Standing outside the shop, Suyu touched the gold bar in his pocket. He took a breath and walked in. I've researched a lot online before coming. Gold shops usually don't ask about the source, unless the amount is huge. If I took out a 50 kilograms gold bar, they'd probably call the police. But just this 1 kilogram piece, that's not a big problem. Don't ask, just say it's an heirloom. Hello, sir. Are you looking for jewelry? As soon as I entered, a receptionist greeted me. In such high-end shops, the service staff or sales usually have high standards, lie in novels, or they look down on people, or make sarcastic comments. That might happen in reality, but it's a very low probability. Even if they look down on you, they wouldn't act like an idiot to your face. I saw online that you buy gold. I happen to have some gold to sell. So you didn't beat around the bush, he said directly. Many things don't have taboos, but being sneaky and indirect makes people suspicious. He explained his purpose openly. When they see the gold I take out, they'll be surprised that someone could get so much gold. If I were hesitant, they'd think the gold was stolen. We do. The receptionist was stunned. She quickly gestured, this way, sir. So you followed her to a corner of the shop, a workbench with many tools. A young man was sitting there, playing on his phone, bored. Master Son, the customer wants to sell gold. Please take a look. The receptionist greeted the young man respectfully, then said to Suyu, this is our Master Son. He's also the Managio, gold recycling. He's in charge of this. He'll check the purity of the gold first, then weigh it on our electronic scale, guaranteed to be accurate to the milligram. This inspection is free. After the inspection and the quote, you can decide whether to sell. She gave Suyu a professional smile and walked away. There are many rules in this business. Customers sell gold of different sizes. Some customers believe in not showing off wealth. They don't want others to know they're rich. So when buying gold, except for the master, others won't stare. Of course, big companies follow these rules. Small street shops don't care. Some even live stream the inspection. Hello, where's the gold? Master Son picked up a magnifying glass and reached out to Suyu. Suyu took the gold out of his pocket. Looking at the palm-sized gold cake, Master Son had no expression, but a flash of surprise crossed his face. Is this all gold? Although he's used to seeing gold, seeing such a large gold cake, he was still a bit surprised. Of course, I wouldn't paint it gold and expect to scam you. Suyu placed the gold cake on the scale. The electronic scale showed the precise weight, 1,622.578 grams. It really is gold. With Master Son's experience, he took a look at the color, estimated the volume and weight. He could tell it was solid gold. He pushed up his glasses. He looked at the gold cake in surprise. Specifically, the dents from a hammer. It's not that I haven't seen the world. I've seen gold bars bigger than this, but hammering such a large piece into a cake, I've never seen that. Aren't you afraid of it flying off? Master Son picked up the gold cake and asked Suyu curiously. It's an heirloom, it's been like this.
No choice, Suyu shrugged.
Master Sun smiled and shook his head.
Although he didn't believe it, he didn't ask further.
He used the magnifying glass
and observed it carefully. After a while, he exhaled and said, "It's pure gold."
He looked at Suyu amateurishly.
This purity of gold
can only be refined with modern tech. Saying it's an heirloom is naturally nonsense in this industry. Gold content over 99% is called gold, and over 99.6% is called pure gold. There's a slight color difference. Ordinary people might not see it, but someone like him deals with gold. Naturally, he can tell. Pure gold? Suyu didn't feel awkward. He acted as if he didn't hear. Give me a price. Wait a moment, I need to test it. Master Sun picked up some bottles
and dripped some liquid on the gold, then looked with the magnifying glass. After a while, he took out a cloth, wiped the gold clean, and put it on the scale. Seeing it hadn't changed, he nodded.
The price of gold is around 400 now. Our recycling price is 398 per gram.
But this is pure gold.
I can give you 403 per gram. How's that?
Fine.
Suyu nodded, not arguing about the price. The total price is about 653,888.
I'll round it up for you.
654,000. He pulled out a contract from the cabinet, wrote it up and handed it to Suyu.
Check the contract. If there's no problem, sign it and it's effective. This kind of contract is simple.
Suyu took a quick look
and confirmed there were no traps. He signed it, hep pie to do business.
I'll have the finance department transferred in an hour. Master Sun called a waiter
to take the contract away. Then took off his gloves and shook hands. Before Suyu could speak, he leaned in and whispered, "Let's add each other on WeChat. If you have more gold to sell, you can come back to me.
Whether you want to go through public or private accounts,
I can handle it safely."
What do you mean by public or private?
Suyu asked calmly. Master Sun didn't hide anything. He said frankly,
public otsao means going through the mine. Pay the taxes and then it's out. The source is naturally the mine. There's definitely no problem.
That's the safest way.
But the price I can give you is 300. Private otsao has many more ways. Selling overseas or trading in the black market.
But I have some risks too.
The price I give is 300. To be honest, whether public or private,
I'm just a middleman. I'll think about it.
Suyu said, and left the shop. The money will be in my otsao soon.
I have plenty of gold.
I don't need to worry about money anymore.
The platform is truly amazing.
I'll be the richest man on earth soon.
I can't wait for the next trade.
In short, whether it's public or private accounts, it's just a way to launder the origin.
Suyu pulled his hand back and smiled.
Didn't you buy that last piece at market price? Why would it need laundering? It's not much. Master Sun shook his head.
A little over a kilo isn't worth the trouble.
Just have the shop's goldsmith turn it into jewelry.
But if there were more, the shop could handle it.
But no one would dare to.
Gold is a strategic resource with too many uses.
So it's strictly regulated.
Selling too much gold of unknown origin leaves a paper trail.
It's easy to get caught.
How do you know I have a lot of gold?
What if I say that's all I have?
Suyu shrugged.
Master Sun gave him a knowing look.
Brother, you chipped this off a large ingot, didn't you? Even though you hammered it after breaking it off. Unless you melt and recast it, you can't hide the metal fatigue from proselyus.
I see.
If a chip is this big,
the original piece must be tens of kilograms.
Where did you get it?
I'm not really interested, but I'll give you some advice. Don't think that splitting it up and selling it at different shops will work, no matter which shop you go to.
Using official gold recycling channels, the price is good, but when they pay you to balance the books, they have to note the transaction. Do it too often, and the bank will flag your otsao. They'll see nothing but gold recycling income.
Guess what happens? It's pointless. If it's a few kilos, you can claim it's an heirloom. People won't say much. It's only 1 million or so, after all. Without proof, they can't do anything to you.
But if you bring out 10 or 20 kilos,
you can't keep calling it an heirloom. People will ask if your surname is Aizenjaro or Zhu.
Master Sun joked as he spoke.
Suyu didn't ask any more questions.
But he did add Master Sun on WeChat.
He hadn't thought it was this complicated.
He didn't think splitting the gold
and selling it elsewhere would be an issue.
But now that Master Sun mentioned it, Suyu realized how naive he had been. No matter how much he cuts the gold, or how many shops he visits,
as long as he doesn't let someone else sell it for him,
the money will eventually hit his otsao.
And regardless of whether the shop gets fined,
the source of funds is always traceable.
So doing it this way is completely pointless.
If Master Sun hadn't told him,
Suyu really wouldn't have realized. After all, in the novels he read,
protagonists who get rich with gold
always sell it like that. He instinctively wanted to follow suit. Only now did he see the huge loophole. Novels are misleading.
Of course, besides the fact that splitting doesn't help. Master Sun's other words,
Suyu was still half skeptical.
So he didn't plan to partner up right away.
After selling the low-grade gold at One Food Jewelry and getting the 654,000 payment in his otsao,
he left. He went to another shop 78 kilometers away. Using the same method, Suyu sold another 2 kilograms gold coin here.
He pocketed another 800,000. After the deal was done,
he subtly asked the expert at this shop
about the ins and outs of the business.
The result was no different from what Master Sun said. The expert was honest and didn't dare do such things, but he recommended someone who specialized in it. After adding another gold selling channel, Suyu left, feeling satisfied. It was already past 8 in the evening. The CBD was brightly lit. Between the towering office buildings, you could faintly see bald salarymen working overtime. Suyu checked his 1.5 million balance.
He let out a long sigh.
That kind of life, working until you go bald, probably won't happen to him ever again. Feeling a bit nostalgic, he sighed,
and realized he hadn't eaten dinner yet.
He found a restaurant and had a meal. The kind of food he only saw food bloggers show off.
A dinner costing 3,000 per person. The taste? Well, that's too vulgar to mention.
They sell the atmosphere.
After eating, he came out.
Suyu grabbed a shared bike and rode home slowly. It was only about 10 kilometers away. A good way to digest the meal and think about how to prepare the 10 tons of grain for Shuangxing. Of course, for just this one trade, 10 tons of rice isn't hard to get. If he were willing to run around, he could hit several supermarkets and buy enough. But this is just the start. Can he keep doing it so easily? He wants black tech from Shuangxing. A few tons of grain won't cut it.
Grain, vegetables, fruit, even purified water are all supplies Shuangxing needs, and things Suyu sees everywhere. But quantity leads to quality change. In his own name, large-scale trades are hard to pull off. The food processing plant idea seems like it needs to be on the agenda. I'll search online tomorrow for the procedures to open a food plant. Better find a lawyer to consult, too. Suyu rode slowly in the bike lane, thinking about these things. But just then, on the sidewalk, another shared bike suddenly popped out. A bike darting out in front of him gave Suyu a fright. He quickly grabbed the brakes, even though it was close. He was riding slowly, so he managed to stop in time. However, bang! Ouch! The sound of a bike falling and a girl's cry rang out. Suyu put one foot on the ground. Looking at the girl on the ground, his mouth twitched. What's this, trying to scam me? I didn't even hit her. He leaned his bike against a tree. Suyu frowned and walked over to the girl, just as he was about to ask if she was okay. Before he could speak, he looked at the girl's face and froze for a second. If he remembered correctly, this girl was the one he saw in the elevator today. Pretty, delicate, and slim. In her JK style pleated skirt and knee-high socks, she had a pair of long, slender legs. On a scale of 10, according to Suyu's taste, she'd get at least a 9. The type you remember for days after one look. Suyu was in the elevator, thinking about gold. Didn't pay much attention, but a quick glance left an impression he hadn't forgotten. Come to think of it, she lives upstairs from him. She's his neighbor. Suyu blinked, looking at the girl on the ground. Awkwardly but politely, he said, what a coincidence. Li Yuanqi scrambled up from the ground, sat on the curb, holding her knee and groaning. She glared at Suyu fiercely, seeming to want to say something, but realizing she was the one who rushed out recklessly, and Suyu didn't hit her. Instead, she fell in a panic. She felt a bit speechless and guilty. Then remembering Suyu scolding people outside the elevator, she felt a bit scared. She groaned for a while, and could only hold her leg, feeling aggrieved. Suyu shook his head. He picked up her bike and picked up her bag, handing it to her. Thanks. Li Yuanqi took the bag and whispered, sorry, I think I scared you just now. It's fine, as long as you're not a scammer. Suyu waved his hand dismissively, then walked toward his bike. Be careful riding. If you're okay, I'll be going. Li Yuanqi saw him getting ready to leave. She instinctively looked around. It was already almost 10 at night. There weren't many people on this road. She couldn't help but feel a bit panicked. After hesitating, she pouted. She said softly, could you do me a favor? I think I sprained my ankle. I can't put any weight on it, and I want to call a cab home. Could you just wait with me? I remember you lie in my building. We can go back together. I'll pay for the cab. Suyu heard her stuttering, hesitant words. He looked at the surroundings again. He suddenly realized and smiled. Fine. Consider it a good deed for today. Anyway, his plan to trade supplies starts tomorrow. He had nothing else to do now. It didn't matter if he went back early or late. He scanned his phone to return the bike. He helped the girl with the sprained ankle to the curb, found a spot to sit and wait for the cab. After sitting down, limping, Li Yuanqi let out a sigh and said, thanks, I'm Li Yuanqi. Suyu replied. Then he picked up his phone. He started searching for the requirements to open a jewelry processing shop. It wasn't that he was being cold, but he could tell. Li Yuanqi seemed like a shy, introverted girl. Trying to flirt would only make her uncomfortable. It wouldn't do anything but make her dislike him. Besides, even though she was beautiful, Suyu wasn't a stranger to women. He wasn't going to lick her boots just because she's pretty. Sure enough, seeing him play on his phone, Li Yuanqi didn't think it was rude. Instead, she felt relieved. She started playing on her own phone too. They didn't say a word on the way home. Suyu did a good deed to the end. He helped the limping Li Yuanqi to her door. And that was that. They didn't even exchange WeChats. Just two strangers crossing paths. After all, if Li Yuanqi dared to invite him, a man she only met twice, inside for tea, Suyu wouldn't dare go either. Getting sick is one thing, but waking up without a kidney, that would be terrifying. The next morning, Suyu arrived at a logistics hub on the outskirts of Shanghai. The food processing plant plan is actually very difficult and troublesome to implement, so Suyu decided to take it slow. In the short term, he'd trade with Shuangxing via small purchases, so a warehouse is definitely necessary. Even though he has an inventory to store things, the way it makes things disappear into thin air is a bit shocking. He's afraid that one day when he's collecting items, someone might accidentally see it, so renting a warehouse for transit is necessary. Warehousing at these large logistics hubs is a very mature business. The process isn't much more complex than renting an apartment. Suyu only spent one morning signing a lease for an 800 square meter warehouse, 1.8 yuan per square meter per day. He signed a 3-month contract. It cost him nearly 130,000. It really made his heart ache. But the good news is, not far from the warehouse he rented, there was a warehouse for a well-known domestic grain brand. After finding the person in charge, Suyu easily bought 10 tons of rice, and over 10 tons of soybeans, corn, potatoes, and other staples. He also bought plenty of seasonings, cooking oil, and some instant foods like self-heating rice. He bought nearly 30 tons of supplies at once. It cost him nearly 200,000, but it was enough to fulfill Shuangxing's request. The supplies he bought even included many things not on the list, but he thought Shuangxing might need them. Suyu bought these under the guise of hotel procurement. Anyway, it wasn't much. They wouldn't ask too many questions. Cash and carry. The warehouse arranged a forklift for him to move the goods into his warehouse. He checked the inside of the warehouse, determining there were no cameras. Suyu closed the door. He touched the supplies lightly and stored everything in his inventory. Then he opened his personal panel, clicked to enter the interdimensional trading platform, and sent a trade request to Shuangxing. 10 minutes later, Shuangxing accepted the invitation. The two appeared in the room where they talked business yesterday. Across the long wooden table, Shuangxing was dressed exactly as she was yesterday. Silver white power armor, plus the head of white hair. Dazzling. You got the supplies ready so fast? As soon as she entered, Shuangxing was pleasantly surprised. The agreed time was 7 days. She really didn't expect Suyu to have it ready in less than a day. It's not much. Suyu nodded. He sent the 10 tons of rice he'd already paid for directly to Shuangxing's inventory via the platform. Then he sent the list of other items to her, letting her choose. Shuangxing saw the 10 tons of grain in her inventory and was ecstatic. This wasn't her first time trading on the platform, but for some reason, her previous trades were with people from feudal agrarian societies. The high-tech gear she offered They couldn't understand and it was worthless to them. Gold was attractive to them, but they didn't have the life to spend it. Two of them took her gold and disappeared. She checked with the platform and found out they were killed for the gold the next day. The others were still alive, but kept delaying the delivery. There were many reasons, like transport difficulties or being afraid to cash out the gold, but generally, it was because their worlds lacked the productivity. The reason she dared to give Suyu so much gold yesterday was because of the clothes Suyu wore and the watch on his wrist. She could tell. Suyu's world couldn't be a local activity agrarian society. It was a modern world in her eyes. At least it had completed industrialization. Its productivity might be far behind the pre-prosperity era, but providing some grain shouldn't be a problem. But Suyu taking less than a day to get the grain ready was far beyond her expectations. Either he's a big shot with resources in his world, or his world's productivity is extremely advanced. Not much worse than the prosperity era, Xuanxing thought to herself. She raised her assessment of this trading partner. Her expression became more serious. After a quick look at the other items, Xuanxing said decisively, I can take all of these. What are your thoughts on the price? If you still want gold, I can provide about a ton for now. I'll need time to gather more. I can collect at least 10 tons of gold within 3 days. Gold isn't worth much in her world. Before the wasteland era was the prosperity era. That was the greatest era for the Luoxiao world. Humanity's footprints covered the stars. Asteroids made of gold collected from space were hundreds of millions of tons. It's just a plain industrial raw material there. If she really wanted it, she'd find 3 wars I can get her a pile of gold. I don't need any for now. Suyu shook his head. If you know anything about economics, you should know. If a large amount of gold flows in at once, it will cause an economic SOC. The impact is bad. So our side regulates gold strictly. I still have to find a way to offload the 500 kilograms you gave me. More won't help. Blue Star's total gold reserves are less than 60,000 tons if he really agreed to trade for more gold. And brought out another 8 or 10 tons. No matter what channel he used, he'd be visited by the authorities the next day. Then what do you want? Xuanxing frowned. No gold? Then the only thing she could offer were technological products or weapons. Suyu said without hesitation. Weapons or shields that allow me to protect myself against several enemies with individual weapons. This was what he had decided on before the trade. He didn't want weapons for anything illegal. It was mainly for self-protection. With some self-protection, he dared to find Master Sun from the gold stock, and through his channels, offload the 500 kilograms of gold he had. He couldn't hope that people in his business had integrity. To prevent being double-crossed without self-protection, he wouldn't consider selling large amounts of gold at once. Hold on, Xuanxing pondered. She disappeared and reappeared. With 2 silver white cases in her hands, she put the cases on the table and opened them. Xuanxing pointed to one with pride. K-10 combat suit, made of nanopolymer material. It can block 12.7mm caliber firearms at close range. 100 rounds of continuous fire. Of course, large caliber electromagnetic weapons are excluded. Built-in temperature control system ensures you're unaffected in extreme conditions. From -50 to +70 degrees. It's also waterproof, fireproof, and poison-proof. Besides that, it comes with an energy shield module that can be used 3 times. Automatically triggered. And it's quite discreet. This is a we can't even produce it ourselves now. It's top tier in terms of safety. She pushed the case towards Suyu. Wear it, and you can run through a hail of bullets. And stay safe. How about trading this for the remaining 20 tons of supplies? Looking at the black, unknown material, the plain-looking clothes, hearing her introduction, Suyu swallowed hard. He reached out and touched it, feeling amazed. This much? Are you sure you're not scamming me? It wasn't much thicker than her t-shirt. It looked like a tight bodysuit. Even if it really was as strong as she said, bullets couldn't penetrate. But such tight clothing. Large caliber bullets wouldn't even need to penetrate. He'd probably have his internal organs shattered with the platform's oversight. Of course I wouldn't sell you fakes. Xuanxing rolled her eyes. But after thinking, she stood up. Don't believe me? I'll show you. With a mechanical clicking sound, she finally took off the heavy power armor. Underneath was a bodysuit identical to the one in front of Suyu. The black bodysuit wrapped around her delicate figure, creating explosive curves. Suyu's blood started pumping. He almost couldn't control himself. Xuanxing seemed to notice. She glanced at Suyu but didn't care. Instead, she calmly pulled out a beautiful silver pistol from the holster on her power armor and fired a shot at the wall. Boom, a huge roar rang out. The wall was blasted with a huge hole by the palm-sized pistol. Suyu's eyelids twitched. The electromagnetic pistol uses tungsten steel needles. The power is probably a bit stronger than a 20mm autocannon. Xuanxing explained casually. Then she raised the gun without hesitation and fired a shot at her own head. The roar rang out again. Suyu held his breath. But the head exploding scene he imagined didn't happen. Her head, which wasn't covered by the suit, was completely unharmed by the shot. Xuanxing shrugged. See, this thing provides protection when worn. It even protects areas not covered. This is black tech from our pre-war world. Don't ask why. It's been over 100 years since the prosperity era. Many technologies have been lost. I don't know the principle either. Satisfied now? She sat down without putting the armor back on, wearing just the bodysuit. She could even put it on the table. Suyu swallowed. He calmed down. Satisfied. This suit is worth the supplies. He put the suit away and traded the remaining 20 tons of supplies to Xuanxing. Great. Now we can talk. Xuanxing smiled and pushed the other open case. The contents were simple. Just a pistol. It looked a bit bigger than the one Xuanxing used, so you felt a bit more at ease. With this, he finally had some self-protection. He could now proceed with his plan. He looked at the pistol, feeling the weight. This was the start of his new life. He thanked her, and the trade concluded. He was ready to face whatever came next. S-79 uses an electromagnetic pistol. It has a built-in metal hydrogen battery. Enough power for 1,000 shots. The magazine holds 50 custom armor-piercing rounds. It's basically just a needle. Nothing high-tech about it. Go find a craftsman back home. They can build it just by looking at this. Steel or iron will work fine. Lower quality materials only affect the range. It won't affect accuracy or power. As for power, it's stronger than mine. It's basically a hand cannon. It can punch through 100 millimeters of steel at 100 meters. He pushed the case with the gun towards Suyu. Suyu looked at the toy object. He didn't question it this time. The trading platform has its own restrictions. There's no such thing as a fake here. He closed the case and nodded. I'll take it. What do you want? I'll take it. What do you want? Hearing Suyu's words, Xuanxing replied without hesitation. Trade this gun for 10 types of fresh fruit, 10 tons of vegetables, 10 tons of meat. Those are the specific types I need. He tapped the light screen in front of him. Then he sent it to Suyu. Suyu glanced at the fruit list. He chose common fruits like bananas, apples, and pears. The vegetables were similar, all quite common items. The prices were also relatively cheap, but the meat wasn't cheap at all. He chose beef. Buying beef at the market now. It costs about 40 per gene. That's 80 to 90 per kilogram. Conservatively calculating at 81 kilograms. 10 tons would be exactly 800,000. Plus the vegetables and fruits. This order will likely cost over $1 million. After pondering for a moment, Suyu nodded. If he could successfully sell the remaining 490 kilograms of gold on hand, he'd make at least 100 million. $1 million or so didn't matter much. If everything goes smoothly, I can deliver within 7 days. If not, I'll get it to you within a month. Suyu estimated the time, giving him a conservative deadline. Xuanxing replied readily. Then it's a deal. Pleasure doing business. Name, Suyu. Identity, transdimensional trading platform, Blue Star District Agent. Level, Junior Agent, 1/10 trade points, 50 available matching attempts, 0 remaining refresh time, 149 hours. Back in his private space, Suyu checked his personal panel. With the first transaction complete, his level progress had finally increased by 1. 9 more trades lie this, and he could upgrade to an ultimate agent to unlock more permissions. Also, with the first trade done, he gained 50 trade points. He opened the trading mall and took a look. He realized 50 points couldn't buy much. In this trans-dimensional mall, the pricing was very strange. For instance, a 100 megaton nuke only cost 50 trade points, but a basic genetic serum cost 200 points. Suyu searched back and forth but found nothing that he could afford and use right now, so he gave up. He'd save the points for now. He couldn't exactly trade for a nuke. He wanted to get rich, not be a terrorist. What would he even do with that? So, looking at it that way, a genetic serum that makes you immune to disease and pushes human limits is much more valuable. Stopping his thoughts on trade points, Suyu closed the panel. He opened the case with the K-10 combat suit. He put it on in his private space. It was skin-tight but not restrictive. Actually, it was very comfortable. Suyu stretched his limbs. He adapted to the feeling quickly. Then he put his regular clothes back on to cover the suit and the areas not covered by clothes. After he put his shirt on, automatically changed to his skin tone like a chameleon. So after dressing, there wasn't a trace of the protective suit. This must be designed for special agents. It's incredible. Suyu took a lighter from his pocket. He burned his palm for a long time. The lighter was about to break, but he felt no heat at all. He weighed the S-79 electromagnetic pistol in his hand. Then he placed it in the combat suit's discreet holster. Without looking closely, you couldn't even tell he was carrying anything. This black tech is truly powerful. If he could get the technology. So you only said half the sentence, but his eyes flashed with excitement because he really had a chance to get this tech. Not to mention anything else. Just the metal hydrogen battery in this gun. A tiny piece powering an electromagnetic weapon for 1,000 shots. The potential is unimaginable. If he could replicate it, that's $1 trillion market. Every company in the world needing battery storage would line up to beg for his authorization. The patent fees alone would make him wealthy. Don't get ahead of yourself. Take it one step at a time. Now isn't the time for black tech. He let out a long breath. Suyu returned to the Blue Star warehouse. Seeing no abnormalities around, he locked the warehouse door and left. It was already past 2 in the afternoon. Not too late yet. He thought about it and hailed Attack 11 to a street with many Force dealerships. He needed to gather various supplies. He couldn't always rely on finding things near the warehouse. He had to run around, so it was better to get a car. On the way, he found a few large gold shops and sold some gold bars. He sold about 8 kilograms, bringing in over 3.5 million, plus the 1.2 million in cash he had left. He now had over 5.7 million in his Otsao. But that was the limit. If he wanted to sell more gold through regular channels, he couldn't do it in Shanghai anymore. He'd have to go to surrounding cities to be safe. Of course, he had enough money for now. He wasn't in a rush. In the suburbs of Shanghai, in a quiet area, the road was lined with various Force dealerships. Suyu looked around, feeling a bit indecisive. His goal before was just to buy a house in Shanghai. As for a car, in traffic-congested Shanghai, for an office worker, it really wasn't as convenient as public transport, so he rarely considered it. Although the company provided cars for sales reps, and he was an experienced driver, the company's cars weren't his. He just drove them. He had no choice in the model or quality. He didn't care about that. He didn't really understand those things. Just look around, he thought, shaking his head. So you walked straight toward the nearest Mercedes Force stop. It was a work day, so the stop wasn't very busy. As soon as he entered, a saleswoman in a skirt, wearing black stockings and looking sweet, trotted over. Hello, sir. Do you have an appointment? No, just looking around. Suyu shook his head. The professional smile on her face didn't change. She replied, do you have a preferred model, sir? Ours is the largest Mercedes Force stop in Shanghai. We have all current models in stock. Feel free to look or take a test drive. They walked and talked. They arrived in front of a white sedan. The saleswoman pointed at the car. This is the latest Mercedes C-Class. It's one of our main models. The price isn't high either. She kept talking about the car. Suyu didn't want to interrupt, but the corner of his mouth twitched. Over 300,000 for a bare car is not high? Well, for him now. That price really wasn't that high, but it's too small. Suyu shook his head. It's fine for family use. But he needed it for other purposes too. The system inventory is limited, and he couldn't put everything in there. He might need to haul gold or local goods from Blue Star. In short, a bigger car would be better. Too small? The saleswoman paused, then flashed a warm smile. If you want more space, I personally recommend our SUV models. Follow me, sir.
Suyu didn't mind
Following her to another display area, but after only a few steps,
a surprised voice rang out.
Suyu? Why are you here?
Suyu stopped and turned around.
After seeing who it was, his calm expression turned to disgust. Zhao Xinhuan, his first girlfriend from college.
His first lop. Well, that's not quite accurate.
Let's put it another way. She was the first goddess he ever simped for. Back then, while studying, she worked part-time as a streamer, catching the early wave of short 60 growth.
She wasn't famous,
but she made over 10,000 a month,
living a comfortable life,
until a dorm mixer, where he met Zhao Xinhuan. At first, she heard about Suyu's talent for making money,
and added him on social media,
claiming she wanted to learn 60 editing.
But as they got closer, she never mentioned editing.
Instead, she would flirt with him every time they met, since she was attractive and had a good figure.
And Suyu had never even held a girl's hand. He couldn't resist. He gathered his courage to pursue her. And then, well, there was no then. He spent a year and a lot of money,
only to hold hands a few times,
until the 6DO trend ended.
And because he took on random ads to make money, he lost a lot of followers.
Editing income dropped,
and Zhao Xinhuan seemed to have an epiphany.
She clarified their relationship, telling him they weren't a good fit.
She even said she was slow in these matters, and if he had just been direct earlier,
she could have made things clear,
saving him all that wasted time. Ridiculous. Back then, Suyu actually believed her. He only hated himself for being shy and left sadly.
It wasn't until later, with more experience, that he realized he'd been a fool.
He became the type who only cares about the physical, not interested in dating at all. He heard Zhao Xinhuan later dated a junior.
But it ended badly.
The junior even got disciplined by the school.
Suyu guessed the guy was smarter than he was,
seeing through her true colors as a gold digger. In short, the first time he gave his heart,
he was cheated. For a woman who cheated a boy's feelings for money, Suyu felt sick just thinking about her. Seeing her now was like seeing a pile of trash. Long time no see.
Are you here to look at cars? Let me show you around. Zhao Xinhuan didn't seem embarrassed at all,
greeting him warmly. Suyu frowned. Before he could speak, the saleswoman who brought him in said awkwardly,
"Sir, do you know our salesperson? In a force up, without an appointment. It's usually first come, first served."
But if he had an acquaintance here,
her sales pitch was a waste of time. Suyu glanced at Zhao Xinhuan and shook his head.
"I didn't know she worked here.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have come in." The saleswoman's eyes lit up.
"Don't worry, sir. Your relationship with her won't affect your purchase here.
The car is the car, the person is the person. No conflict."
"Shall we continue looking? Are you really here to look at cars?"
Zhao Xinhuan walked up to them, smiling at the saleswoman.
"Xiaoyu, this is my friend. I'll handle this."
"Thanks for your trouble."
The saleswoman, Xiaoyu, didn't leave. She just glanced at Suyu without speaking. In this business,
having a good eye is important.
To sell a car,
you have to judge the customer, who is actually here to buy,
and who is just looking.
From their behavior, you can tell. The man in front of her was calm and articulate, though his clothes didn't scream rich. He didn't look like someone just window shopping.
Plus, what he said earlier, Xiaoyu didn't want to give up this quality lead.
Even if she offended a colleague, it didn't matter.
They were competitors anyway.
As long as she didn't break the rules.
Who cares?
"Friend? Are we that close?"
Suyu sneered,
then said to Xiaoyu, "Let's go."
"This way, please, sir."
Xiaoyu smiled immediately.
Zhao Xinhuan watched them leave,
stuck in place,
her face turning red then white.
She knew Suyu must have realized what happened back then.
But she was bored, saw an old acquaintance, and approached him.
If Suyu was really here to buy a car,
it would be the perfect way to reconnect.
Maybe she could reel him back in. At the very least, she could make a Zio.
Things were different now.
Even if so back then, she had some standards.
Only letting guys hold her hand. Now, she didn't care.
Sometimes to hit her targets. Sleeping with big clients was common. They say men have a first lop complex. If she, his first lop, chased him,
wouldn't he fall for it?
If he was just window shopping,
that was fine too.
She had been working here for a while,
meeting countless rich people. She wasn't the same girl from college.
She could use this chance to mock the guy she used to play.
Just for fun.
But she never expected Suyu to not even bother speaking to her. That was hard for the arrogant Zhao Xinhuan to accept.
She started overthinking, wondering if someone told Suyu she worked here,
and he came to humiliate her.
After hesitating for a while,
Zhao Xinhuan gritted her teeth.
"I'll see if you can actually afford it, or if you're just putting on a show." She started to follow them, but before she could take 2 steps, her phone rang. She checked it,
her expression changing instantly. "Mr. Wang,
you're coming to see the car today?" "Det, I'm in the shop right now."
"You're almost here? Great, great. I'll come to the entrance to meet you."
In just a few words.
The gloomy Zhao Xinhuan was beaming. She glanced at the direction Suyu and Xiaoyu left, snorted, and headed for the door.
"A poor loser.
One of my clients is 100 times richer than you.
And you, Xiaoyu,
thinking you found a big spender. I'll show you what a real big spender is soon. If you're not willing to do what it takes, you won't make money."
Meanwhile, the two looking at cars
didn't know about Zhao Xinhuan's DRA mob.
Suyu looked at several Mercedes subs but wasn't satisfied.
Just as Xiaoyu thought she'd misjudged him, she heard Suyu say,
"Do you have a G-Wagon?" He didn't know much about cars, but he knew the Mercedes G-Wagon.
The right appealed to him more than these things, and the off-road performance was decent.
If he needed to collect supplies later, going to remote places, driving there would be convenient. Considering his balance was sufficient, he decided to just get a G-Wagon.
"A G-Wagon?" Xiaoyu immediately said, "Upstairs."
"There's one in the showroom. I can take you to see it.
Also, we just got 2 new G63s in stock.
If you want one, we have them available."
And because of a current promotion, no more was required. So you didn't say much.
Just nodded. After seeing the showroom car, they went to the second-floor lounge.
Suyu asked, "If I want to take the car today, is it possible? Take it today?" Xiaoyu paused, instinctively checking the time.
It was already past 4. She smiled bitterly.
"Sir, the DMV closes in less than an hour. It's definitely too late to take the car today. Even if I painful." Suyu asked, "Financing takes a lot of paperwork."
"Usually taking weeks to get the car."
He wanted to drive it away now, so he had no intention of financing. Paying in full is theoretically possible, but you have to sign the contract and pay right now. Then we'd have to rush to the DMV to handle the paperwork, Xiao Yu said helplessly. But the car alone is over 2 million. With taxes and insurance, it'll be over 2.5 million. That's not a small amount. You need time to think about it, right? It's already this late. If we delay another half hour, it'll be too late. Then let's pay now. No need to think. Go get the contract, Suyu said calmly. Sir, are you really sure you want to buy it? Xiao Yu heard Suyu, stunned and bewildered. Do you think I'm here to waste your time? Go, don't waste time. Suyu's expression didn't change. Wait here. Xiao Yu was overjoyed, trotting off to the office to get the contract. While salespeople prefer financing over full payment, business has been tough lately. Making a ZO is what matters. Who cares about the method? Especially a quality client like Suyu, who wants to pay 2 million without a second thought. If she provides good service, the benefits go beyond just this ZO. The commission is just a small part. As Xiao Yu left, Zhao Xinhuan arrived with a balding middle-aged man, heading to the second-floor lounge. They were laughing and acting intimate. Anyone could see they weren't just friends. Suyu glanced at them and lost interest, picking up his phone to scroll through videos. But Zhao Xinhuan saw him there, her eyes lighting up. After settling the middle-aged man, she walked over and said sarcastically, "Why are you sitting here alone? Where's Xiao Yu? It's our stock policy. Regardless of whether a customer is buying, we must treat them well." That's so rude of her. I'll help you file a complaint later. Still the same old act. Suyu raised an eyebrow. This familiar T behavior was just Lai before. He was just young then, completely unaware of it. How could he have been so blind to fall for someone like this? Suyu shook his head, puzzled by his past behavior, and feeling physically uncomfortable. It felt like looking at his old social media posts from 10 years ago. The emo phase. Looking at it now, he felt so embarrassed. He could crawl into a hole. Shaking his head, he took a sip of water, then said unhurriedly, "She went to get the contract." Get a contract? Are you really buying a car? Zhao Xinhuan paused, looking surprised. He was just young back then, and simply didn't understand any of this. How could I have been so blind back then to fall for such a piece of trash? Suyu shook his head, completely baffled by his own past foolish behavior, and felt physically sick. This feeling was like flipping through QQ space one day, and suddenly stumbling upon posts from 10 years ago, from that non-mainstream era. Now, just looking at them is so awkward. I could almost cringe myself into a 3-bedroom apartment. Shaking his head, he picked up his water and took a sip, then said unhurriedly, he went to get the contract. Getting the contract really means buying the car. Xuanxing was stunned, looking surprised, but he quickly realized his status as a salesperson. He knew that wasn't the right thing to say and changed his tone. "No, I meant, I can't believe you decided so quickly. So, which car did you pick?" Suyu, however, had no interest in entertaining him. He kept staring at the dancing girl 60 on his phone as if he hadn't heard. Seeing his dismissive attitude, Zhao Xinhuan felt annoyed. She was grinding her teeth in anger, but remembering she was on the clock, she couldn't cause a scene in the showroom. She could only force a laugh and walk away awkwardly. She went to pour water for Mr. Wang, who was waiting to talk business. In their line of work, the customer is king, especially in a Ford's dealership selling luxury cars worth hundreds of thousands. There are high standards for the staff's conduct. Even if you meet an unreasonable customer, as long as they haven't swiped their card or signed the contract, you have to keep them happy. If you really can't stand it, you ask to switch with a colleague. If you dare to be rude to a customer, you might as well pack your bags and leave. Of course, that only applies before the card is swiped. After the payment, it's a different sheet to read. So, even though Suyu made her furious, she didn't dare do anything in the store. A minor incident. Suyu didn't take it to heart, and soon, Yu Shaoqian returned with a stack of contracts. Suyu took a quick look. After confirming everything was correct, he signed his name. Then came the card payment. Then the process of getting the temporary license plates. Finally, just as the DMV was closing, he finished all the paperwork in the dealership's delivery area, accompanied by the Managio and others. After a simple delivery ceremony, Yu Shaoqian handed the car keys to Suyu with both hands. "Mr. Su, it's all yours now." Suyu nodded. Looking at this treasure worth over 2 million, he felt a bit dazed. Yesterday, he was still worrying about finding a job. Today, he was picking up a luxury car. Not to mention others. Even he, as the one experiencing it, felt like the last day or so was a lifetime ago. It felt like he was living a whole new life. Working hard really has no future. Cheating is just better. He let out a long breath. Suyu took the keys, ready to drive off. But just then, while everyone else had stepped away, Yu Shaoqian whispered, "Mr. Su, are you free this weekend? The weekend?" Suyu raised an eyebrow. With a playful smile, he said, "I'm fried." "What? Are you treating me to dinner?" To be fair, the saleswoman was actually quite pretty. At least much better than that piece of work, Zhao Xinhuan. She was at least a 90 out of 100. Although he hadn't considered dating a salesperson when buying the car. If she was throwing herself at him, he naturally wouldn't refuse. Not pursuing, not refusing. That was his current standard of conduct. Of course, in the past, he would have added one more rule. Not taking responsibility, being a total jerk. But now that he had the means, there was no need to be that much of a jerk. Taking some responsibility when appropriate was fine. "You gave me such a huge order. Treating you to dinner is the least I can do." Yu Shaoqian smiled. "Also, my name is Yu Shaoqian. If you don't mind, you can just call me Shaoqian. If you have any issues with the car, just message me on WeChat." "Sure." "You picked the place for the weekend." Suyu nodded without saying much more, then got into the car and drove off. Yu Shaoqian watched the black car drive away, a look of excitement in her eyes. She couldn't help but clench her little fist. "Yo, Shaoqian, did you close the deal?" Just then, Zhao Xinhuan, who had finished showing a car to the bald Mr. Wang, walked by. She glanced at the excited Yu Shaoqian, unable to help being snide. In the showroom, Suyu was a customer, a god. She wouldn't dare do anything to him, but there were no such concerns between colleagues. Anyway, she and Yu Shaoqian weren't on good terms. And even though Yu Shaoqian was prettier than her, she didn't have as few scruples as she did. So, her performance had always been worse than hers. Even if they really had a conflict, the Managio would probably side with her. Zhao Xinhuan finished with her customer, and he had already driven the car away. Yu Shaoqian glanced at Zhao Xinhuan, her expression a bit strange. Although she didn't ask what happened between Suyu and Zhao Xinhuan, she could probably guess a little. It was nothing more than Suyu not being that rich before. That kind of messy business. Otherwise, knowing Zhao Xinhuan, a woman with no bottom line, how could she let a rich guy who bought a car without blinking get away so fast? Zhao Xinhuan's expression froze. As an industry insider, she naturally knew that taking the car so quickly meant it was a full cash payment. Thinking of this, she hurriedly asked, "Which car did he buy? A C-Class or an E-Class?" If it was just an entry-level Mercedes, even if it cost 2 or 300,000, she could accept it. "C-Class?"
A-class? Yu Xiaoqian flipped through her phone gallery, opened a picture, and put it in front of Zhao Xinhuan. It's the G-Wagon, 2.58 million, paid in full. From entering the store to driving away, it took only an hour. Sister Zhao, your friend is really rich, she said with a playful wink, then walked slowly toward the store in her high heels, humming a tune as she walked. She was clearly in a great mood. Zhao Xinhuan was left frozen on the spot, her mind filled with that picture, the sharp, imposing luxury car, and Su Yu, as spirited as he was in his youth. Driving on the road, Su Yu didn't go home right away. Instead, he found a place, finished a quick dinner, and drove toward the suburbs of Shanghai. Finally, he stopped outside an abandoned industrial park. The reason he was so eager to get the car today, besides having the money, was that on his way to buy the car, he had contacted Master Sun, whom he met at the gold shop. They agreed to try trading 100 kilograms of gold tomorrow night. The location they agreed on was in these suburbs. Whether it was to guard against them double-crossing him, or because this place was too remote, it was easy to travel to. A vehicle was clearly necessary, and him coming here now was mainly to scout the location. Parking the car by a patch of woods on the side of the road, Su Yu touched his waist, where the S-79 electromagnetic pistol from Shuangxing was, and glanced at the K-class combat suit he was wearing underneath. He felt full of security. He walked into the industrial park in the dark. This industrial park was probably a product of the last century. It was closed later due to pollution, and had been sitting idle for over 10 years. Inside, it was overgrown with weeds and the factory buildings were dilapidated. In the dark, it gave off a creepy feeling, making Su Yu feel like he was playing Resident Evil. He was afraid a zombie would jump out from some corner and take a bite. But luckily, reality wasn't a game. Zombies didn't exist. After walking around the industrial park with his heart in his throat, he had a rough idea of the terrain and layout. He also confirmed that this wasn't some gang's hideout lie in the movies. Forget about people. There wasn't even a ghost inside. In the wheat-choked factory area, only a few inconspicuous paths reminded Su Yu that people occasionally came here. Probably just local villagers. Confirming that it would be hard to set a trap for him here. Su Yu breathed a sigh of relief. At least for now. The place Master Sun shows shouldn't have any tricks. But this was actually a good spot. Su Yu stood on a high point in the industrial park, overlooking the terrain. He couldn't help but sigh. It was backed by mountains on one side and the sea on the other. On the mountainside, there was only one concrete road to get in. Enough for normal cars or buses to enter and exit. On the seaside, there was a dock. The dock wasn't big, but it should be enough for 1,000-ton cargo ships to load and unload. In the past, the park's cargo probably moved by water, greatly saving on transportation costs. The concrete road on the mountainside was probably for employees. Driving from here to Shanghai, it would take about half an hour to reach the city center. Back when transportation wasn't as developed, just the fact that cargo could be shipped by water nearby made this location unique. But for now, it was a bit of a white elephant. After all, transportation is developed now. Shipping cargo domestically by road isn't expensive. For international shipments, they just ship from the major ports in Shanghai. The efficiency is actually higher. Plus, it's remote. Although it's called the suburbs, a commute is only half an hour. But there's no public transportation nearby. You can't expect every employee to have a car. So that's probably the biggest reason why. After it was closed, no one wanted to take it over. The advantages of the past had become weaknesses. Times have changed. Su Yu shook his head and prepared to leave, but just as he turned, a bold idea suddenly popped into his mind. What if he bought this place? Once this thought appeared, it grew uncontrollably. He couldn't keep selling gold forever. Getting technology from Shuangxing and then replicating these cross-era technologies on Blue Star. That was the real way to get rich. And to replicate these technologies, he needed employees, he needed a company, he needed a factory. Employees aside, just talking about the location for the company and factory, this place was undoubtedly very suitable. Backed by mountains and facing the sea, the land in between must be at least 10,000 acres. More importantly, the privacy here was strong enough. According to the land zoning, this industrial park belonged to the nearby Shaohai village, and the actual location of Shaohai village was by the sea, 3 to 4 kilometers away. Normally, the villagers rarely came here, choosing to tinker with those black technologies here. At least he wouldn't have to worry about prying eyes or leaks. Except for the sea, there was only one road coming in from the mountains, so he didn't have to worry about intruders. Plus the convenient water transport. Although it wouldn't work for imports and exports, it would be perfect for purchasing bulk grain. No problem at all. Once the company and factory were established, if he needed grain, he could just buy large quantities under the guise of research. As for after it was delivered, how he would explain where it went. There were too many ways. In short, this abandoned industrial park, which seemed like a burden to other companies, was undoubtedly a treasure to Su Yu. If the trade went smoothly tomorrow, he could find a way to buy this land. Su Yu already had a plan in his mind. After walking around the industrial park again, he drove away. But during that time, he tested the S-79 electromagnetic pistol. The power was strong, but the noise was actually quieter than a normal pistol. In such a remote corner, he didn't have to worry about being heard. To be honest, it was worthy of being black technology from Shuangxing's world. This electromagnetic pistol was much more awesome than he imagined. Effective range, 1,800 meters. Within 1,000 meters, there was no need to consider wind speed, bullet drop, or other factors. The muzzle velocity reached a terrifying 6 times the speed of sound. With this data, even the high-precision sniper rifles now would be crushed. Besides that, this little thing even had an auxiliary aiming module. Su Yu, a novice who had never touched a gun, could hit the bullseye within 200 to 300 meters. He didn't have to worry about his aim failing at a critical moment. The next day at noon, Su Yu was woken up by a phone call. When he got home yesterday, it was already past 3 a.m., so he slept until noon. This sudden call wasn't about anything else. It was just to remind Su Yu that the 10 tons of fruit and 10 tons of vegetables he ordered online were being transported by cold chain and were about to arrive in Shanghai. They would be delivered to his designated warehouse in the afternoon, reminding him to receive the goods. Although fruit and vegetables were more expensive than grain. Compared to grain, which involved livelihood security, fruit and vegetables weren't as sensitive. He didn't have to be so careful about purchasing them. Buying a large amount of grain at once would make people wonder why he was hoarding so much. After all, domestic grain prices were relatively stable. There was no profit to be made, so hoarding it made no sense. But if he bought a large amount of fruit
fruit and vegetables at once. Even if the relevant departments noticed, they probably wouldn't think too much of it, because if you had the channels to sell fruit and vegetables, you could indeed make money. There were many people in this business. If you have a motive for doing something, others won't suspect anything. But if you do something with no apparent motive, people will suspect what you're up to. So, fruit and vegetables, 10 tons, 100 tons, 1,000 tons, it wasn't a problem. If it really came down to it, he could just rent a few orchards or vegetable farms at the source. As for the 10 tons of beef, Suyu had also found a source. He didn't go to a slaughterhouse for fresh meat, but contacted a cold storage in Shanghai and purchased 10 tons, storing it there for now. Whenever he needed it, he would just rent a refrigerated truck to pick it up. Don't ask why he didn't buy fresh, but frozen. The answer is it's cheap. He lay in bed for a while longer, and seeing it was past 12 p.m., Suyu finally crawled out of bed. After a quick wash, he went downstairs to find a restaurant. It was the peak time for the restaurant. Suyu looked around, but couldn't find an empty table. Just as he was about to go to another place, he suddenly spotted a table in the corner that had just opened up, but someone had gotten there first, and that person happened to be Li Yuanxi, whom he had met a few days ago. Suyu turned around, sat down opposite her casually, and smiled at Li Yuanxi, who looked up at him in surprise. What a coincidence. Not really. On weekends in the past, I often saw you here too. Li Yuanxi replied earnestly. Suyu wasn't too surprised. This was the restaurant nearby that suited his taste the best. He had been here many times. He was just a bit surprised that he hadn't noticed a beauty like Li Yuanxi. But she had noticed him. Do you go to school nearby? Suyu glanced at Li Yuanxi. The girl looked only 17 or 18, but after interacting with her, from her speech and behavior, she was probably in her early 20s. She just looked very young. Yeah, I'm a junior this year. Li Yuanxi answered obediently. Compared to when she first met Suyu and was stuttering, an autistic girl. After getting a bit more familiar, she could chat with Suyu a bit, but looking at her serious expression, she was clearly still nervous and uncomfortable interacting with strangers. You rode your bike so far that night. Was there something going on? To keep the atmosphere from being too awkward, Suyu brought up another topic. I work part-time at a pet stop over there. Li Yuanxi replied, and after a moment of thought, she asked Suyu, how about you? Do you work nearby? Me? I'm unemployed. Suyu shrugged and said with a smile. Li Yuanxi was stunned, then lowered her head, muttering with some dissatisfaction, liar. Suyu smiled and didn't explain. He took out his phone, scanned the QR code on the table, and ordered a few dishes. We've met so many times. It's fate. Let me treat you to a meal. Any allergies? Treat me to a meal? Li Yuanxi looked at him in SOC, then asked vigilantly, why? I just want to treat you. Why do I need a reason to treat you to a meal? Suyu shrugged. Cute and innocent girls should always receive more kindness. Anyway, the small restaurant wasn't expensive, so ordering a few more dishes wouldn't cost much. Just being casual. Consider it a reward for saving me a seat. I didn't save you a seat. I'm here to eat myself. Li Yuanxi shook her head like a rattle. Doesn't it amount to the same thing? Under Suyu's smooth talk, Li Yuanxi was completely taken in, and finally accepted his invitation. Soon, a few delicious dishes were served. Suyu ate and asked, casually, by the way, what is your major? Law. Li Yuanxi took a small bite of food, swallowed, and then replied, law? Suyu's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly asked, do you know anything about commercial law? I know a bit. I basically remember all the regulations. Li Yuanxi looked at Suyu. Do you have a question? Smart. Suyu complimented her, then turned to ask about the problem that had been bothering him for days. It was basically how to register a company, how to register a factory, and so on. There are many legal ins and outs. Broken down. Different companies or factories require different procedures and documents. If you don't ask a professional, if Suyu had to figure it out himself, he didn't know how long it would take. He had originally planned to find a law firm later to ask, but since he met a law student, there was no need to look further. Facts proved that Li Yuanxi's I know a bit was indeed modesty regarding various legal provisions and precautions. She knew them almost by heart. She could rattle them off. It left Suyu, the layman, completely confused. Li Yuanxi seemed to notice that what she was saying was a bit too complicated, and Suyu probably couldn't understand. So she turned to say, I know a professor. He opened a law firm himself. Their firm mainly handles commercial dispute cases. Business matters. They should be more professional than me. If you intend to register a company or factory, I can help you ask them to handle it. How are the fees calculated? When talking about her field of expertise, this girl, who originally seemed introverted and silent, seemed to open up, entrusting it to a professional law firm. That was indeed feasible. Suyu nodded upon hearing this. He did have intentions in that regard, but let's talk about it in a while. It's not something that can be done overnight. Li Yuanxi nodded and didn't ask further. The meal was finished quickly. Suyu got up to pay the bill. Just as he was about to say goodbye to Li Yuanxi, he found that while he went to pay, in that short time, someone had actually taken his seat. They were talking to Li Yuanxi. Li Yuanxi was tensing her little face, looking down and not looking at the man talking. I'm talking to you, and you're not happy? You ran out? You don't even want your home? Where are you hiding? Can you hide? All day long, you just read those useless books. What's the point? You want to study law and be a lawyer? Pack your things and get home right now. Suyu walked closer and heard the yellow-haired, non-mainstream man's blunt words. It sounded like Li Yuanxi's family. He stopped immediately. Although the guy's tone was asking for a beating, it was their family business after all, so he shouldn't interfere too much. It was just a pity. Such a nice girl, but her family didn't seem harmonious. Why aren't you talking? Are you mute, you money-losing goods? What's the use of reading so many books? How much money have you wasted every year? The yellow-haired guy didn't care at all, as many people around were already attracted by the commotion, pointing at Li Yuanxi's nose and saying very ugly things. Suyu, who had originally thought it was a family matter and was ready to leave, couldn't listen anymore. He walked over and tapped the table, saying to the yellow-haired guy, buddy, you're in my seat. If he had encountered this in the past, he would have been too lazy to care. After all, they hadn't started fighting. At most, it was a family dispute. If he stepped in and caused something to happen, it wouldn't even count as a heroic act. At most, it would be a street fight. But now, actually, thinking about it, he didn't seem as afraid of trouble as before. One reason is that he's not short on money. He had plenty of time to kill. Besides, he was wearing a combat suit. If a fight broke out, he'd be the one winning. He wouldn't lose. He wasn't afraid of any crazy people. Who are you to pull a knife just because you're angry? Yellow hair turned to look at Suyu. Impatiently, he said, none of your business. This is my seat. Get lost. Suyu remained calm. He didn't show any sign of backing down. Seeing the tension between the two, it looked like a fight was about to break out. The restaurant owner, who had been busy elsewhere, suddenly appeared. Gentlemen, please, don't get excited. Let's keep the peace. This seat was indeed taken by this young man earlier. If you need a place to eat, sir, I'll find you a table right now. The last part was obviously directed at Yellow Hair. However, Yellow Hair glared fiercely at Suyu. He snorted coldly. He replied dismissively to the owner, forget it. Then, he looked at Li Yuanxi. Why are you still sitting there? Rooted to the spot? Get up and go pack your things. We're going back home this afternoon. Li Yuanqi didn't say a word. She didn't even look at him. She kept her head down, silently showing her resistance. Seeing this, Yellow Hair got agitated. He reached out to grab Li Yuanqi, but before his hand could reach her, Suyu slapped it away. What are you doing? It's the 21st century. You want to kidnap a girl in broad daylight? Have you no respect for the law? Yellow Hair's face darkened. He seemed ready to fight, but after waving his hand, he held back. Kidnap? She's my sister. I'm disciplining my own sister. Does that concern you? Your sister?
Suyu looked up and down at this short,
crooked-mouthed, yellow-haired guy. Then he glanced at the slender, beautiful Li Yuanqi. He sneered, bro, how much have you had to drink? The restroom is in the back. Why don't you go take a leak and look at yourself in the mirror? If the two of them stood together, it would be like Beauty and the Beast. They didn't look like they belonged in the same picture.
If they were siblings,
so you would never believe in biology again. What do you mean? Yellow Hair's face grew darker. His hands were clenched into fists. He looked ready to start a fight at any moment. But Suyu wasn't panicked at all. It wasn't just because of the combat suit he was wearing. He had figured it out. This guy was all bark and no bite.
He looked fierce.
But he didn't actually have the guts to fight. He was just bluffing. He only dared to bully a pushover like Li Yuanqi. What do I mean? I mean you're ugly. Do you need me to be more specific? Suyu didn't even look at him. He turned and pulled Li Yuanqi away. Li Yuanqi tried to pull her hand back, but couldn't, so she just let him lead her. She followed him with her head down. Yellow Hair, seeing this, widened his eyes in SOC. He forgot about Suyu calling him ugly. He quickly blocked their path. Who are you? Why are you holding her? She's my girlfriend. Can't I hold her? Move. Suyu shoved Yellow Hair aside without hesitation. He led Li Yuanqi outside. With this kind of blustering punk, if you try to reason with him, he'll think you're scared and get even worse. The best way to deal with such people is to be more arrogant. If you're unreasonable, he'll back down. Yellow Hair stumbled back a few steps before regaining his balance, seeing Suyu ignoring him completely and walking away. His chest heaved with anger. He looked at a wine bottle left on a nearby table. He wanted to grab it and smash it on Suyu's head, but after hesitating for a long time, he still couldn't find the courage. The restaurant owner, who had been watching him, sighed in relief, ready to grab the bottle if needed. At least there was no fight.
The surrounding crowd burst into laughter,
mocking Yellow Hair for being a bully who feared the strong. He only dared to pick on a young girl. Yellow Hair's face turned red and pale. He gritted his teeth, took out his phone, and chased after them. He took a few photos of them. Then he sent the photos to a contact labeled Old Man on WeChat. He sent a voice message. Damn it, I can't handle this money-wasting brat. You deal with her yourself. She's already finding a man out there. He looked just like a primary school student, running home to tattle after being wrong. After sending the message, he wasn't satisfied. He continued while walking. That guy actually dared to. Before he could finish, he reached the entrance. He saw Suyu leading Li Yuanqi into a black SUV. He stood there, stunned. His face showed pure disbelief, until his WeChat notification went off. He finally came back to his senses. He quickly clicked on the voice message. Finding a man? That money-wasting brat. I told her not to study and to get married, but she wouldn't listen. She snuck off to Shanghai to go to school, and now she's secretly finding a man. What's the guy's situation? Tell her to get lost. Be careful, or I'll break her legs. That guy. Yellow Hair watched the SUV pull out of the parking lot. He quickly took more photos and sent them, ecstatic. Damn, this guy is rich. He's driving a Mercedes G-Wagon, worth millions. This brat has hooked up with a big shot. Thank you, sorry for the trouble. In the car, Li Yuanqi said softly with her head down. It was just on the way, no trouble at all. Suyu shook his head and asked curiously, is that guy really your brother? I guess so. Li Yuanqi was silent for a moment. She briefly told Suyu about her family situation. Basically, her father passed away a long time ago. Later, her mother remarried. The man she married was Yellow Hair's father when her mother was still alive. Although she didn't have a great life at home, at least the father and son didn't dare to bully her. But in her senior year of high school, her mother passed away in an accident. Since then, Li Yuanqi had been living like a guest in her own home. She got excellent scores on her college entrance exams, but Yellow Hair and her stepfather wouldn't let her go to school. They even said they wanted to find her a rich husband. After all, Li Yuanqi was beautiful. In the current climate, marrying a rich man, they were afraid they wouldn't get a huge dowry. But Li Yuanqi didn't accept her fate. She took the money her mother had secretly left her and ran to Shanghai. She worked while studying. It had been almost 3 years now. She didn't know how Yellow Hair had found her. After hearing this, Suyu had to sigh. Misfortunes never come singly. Fate picks on the poor. That's rough. He didn't dwell on the topic and asked, where are you going? I'll drop you off. Although Li Yuanqi seemed strong, it was better not to rub salt in her wounds. Li Yuanqi looked up at him deeply for a while. She didn't refuse. She let out a breath and said, then please take me to my school. I have class this afternoon. Suyu nodded. He focused on driving. In a moment, they arrived at Shanghai University. Leave your contact info. If that guy bothers you again, send me a message. Suyu took out his phone and pulled up his QR code. Li Yuanqi, who was about to leave, hesitated for a moment. Then she took out her phone and scanned the code. She added Suyu on WeChat. Just when Suyu thought she was leaving, Li Yuanqi suddenly looked at him. Are you trying to keep me as a mistress? Suyu, to be honest, I am. To be fair, he wasn't someone who liked to meddle in others' business. Before this, he didn't even have Li Yuanqi's contact info. They were just acquaintances at best, not even friends. Given her personality, what happened in the restaurant? If it had been a woman not as pretty as Li Yuanqi, he probably would have just watched from the sidelines, instead of arguing with that punk and bringing unnecessary trouble upon himself. In the end, it was because Li Yuanqi was beautiful. He was attracted to her. Of course, Suyu didn't intend to use this small favor to demand anything in return. If it happens, great. If not, so be it. That was his purpose for doing these things. As for keeping her, if it really happened, he naturally wouldn't let her work and study at the same time, living such a miserable life. If you have to call it that, then I guess it counts as keeping her. Suyu coughed and asked, why do you say that? Why would you say that? Don't all rich people lie to keep female college students? Li Yuanqi glanced at the steering wheel. She didn't know much about cars, but she recognized the Mercedes logo. From the comfort and interior quality, it was easy to tell. This car was definitely not cheap. Not all rich people are like that. And what kind of rich person am I? Suyu whispered a defense. Then he waved his hand. Alright, go to school. We'll talk about the future later. He wasn't in a rush anyway. His first goal was to make money using the cross-dimensional trading platform. Getting black technology was his priority. Picking up girls was just a side benefit. Li Yuanqi looked at him, then got out of the car without denying it. So he really did have that intention. Li Yuanqi watched the SUV slowly drive away. Her eyes were complex, until Suyu's car disappeared into the traffic. She turned and walked into the campus. I'll help him ask Professor Zhang about starting a company.
Regardless of his motives,
he really did help me. Helping Suyu with the task he entrusted me with is the least I can do to repay him.
But that was all.
If yellow hair continued to bother her, and she didn't want to be dragged back home, she would probably have to ask Suyu for help again. If she owed him too many favors, she had nothing else to offer, except for herself. Suyu said they'd talk later, but Li Yuan she felt that the next time yellow hair showed up, it would be the time she had to make a choice. Would yellow hair let her go? Obviously not. She knew exactly what kind of people those two were. They only thought about marrying her off to earn a sky-high dowry. Although she was a law student, it was precisely because she knew the law that she knew family disputes were hard to manage. After all, her household registration was still with them. Before her mother passed away, her stepfather did pay for some of her schooling and living expenses. Legally speaking, she had an obligation to support her stepfather. If that father and son really wanted to marry her off to a rich man, they wouldn't even need money. They could just come to her school and cause a scene, or go to her workplace and make trouble. They could ruin her life, forcing her to give in. As long as they didn't hurt anyone, the police couldn't do much. At most, they'd be detained for a few days. She had seen countless similar cases. In this situation, besides Suyu's aggressive, intimidating tactics, there really wasn't a better way to handle it. And among the people she knew, Suyu was the only one capable and willing to do that. As for Suyu's impure motives, she could understand that. After all, why would a stranger help her without any purpose? She sighed deeply. The already introverted girl felt even more withdrawn. On the other side, Suyu drove out of the city. Half an hour later, he arrived at the warehouse in the suburbs. After waiting for a while, the 10 tons of vegetables and fruit were delivered, along with the 10 tons of beef. After confirming the weight was correct, he paid the remaining balance. He had the items moved into the warehouse. Once everything was settled, and he was alone in the warehouse. It was already past 4 in the afternoon. The time to trade gold with Master Sun was 9 tonight. There was still time. Suyu put the items into his inventory, then flashed his figure, and entered the trading platform. Entering this place for the 3rd time, Suyu was quite calm. He sent a message to Xuanxing. After receiving a reply to wait a moment, he entered the familiar meeting room from his private space. After waiting for over half an hour, just as he was getting impatient and was about to send another message, Xuanxing finally arrived. It was clear she had been very busy. When she entered the meeting room, she hadn't even retracted the helmet of her power armor. The silver white armor was even stained with blood. Across the 10-meter long table, Suyu could even smell the blood on her. "Sorry, I have some urgent matters to handle. I'm late." Once she sat down, Xuanxing tapped her helmet. The CU-looking helmet retracted into the power armor with a mechanical word, revealing her white-haired head. "Did you just finish a battle?" Suyu glanced at the blood on her. "Yeah, I just wiped out a group of mutant beasts in a pre-war shelter," Xuanxing said with excitement. "It's been a while since I had such a good fight. You don't know, those tyrant lizards are 3 to 4 meters tall. They are one of the most terrifying mutant creatures in the wasteland. Ordinary tanks can't do anything to them. I cut its head off in one strike." "That's impressive." Suyu's eye twitched. He found it hard to imagine that scene. He thought, the wasteland is indeed dangerous. There are such monsters. But thinking of this, he asked, "By the way, what is your status over there? This power armor isn't ordinary, right?" "I am," Xuanxing said with pride, "Commander of the 7th Legion of Future City, 1-star Major General. You can also call me General Frost. As for this power armor, it's a product of the pre-war prosperous era. Our future city has the most advanced technology in the wasteland, and we can produce power armor. But the power armor we produce is far inferior to the pre-war ones. In terms of comprehensive combat power, the power armor produced by Future City is about equal to a 6th-generation tank. And this set of mine, if we don't consider ammo consumption, could probably take on 100 of them. To put it more simply, wearing this, I can tear open a 1-meter thick nuclear bunker door with my bare hands. Suyu, this is a bit too outrageous. Even Iron Man isn't this tough. And it sounds like the future city that Xuanxing looked down on can mass-produce power armor that is also very powerful, equivalent to a 6th-generation tank's combat power. You know, Bluestar's most advanced tanks are only 4th generation. It'll be a long time before we reach the 6th generation. If I could get a batch of these, I'd instantly become the king of land warfare." Thinking of this, his eyes lit up. He quickly asked Xuanxing if it was possible to get him a batch, but Xuanxing helplessly spread her hands. "Give up." Although Future City can produce them, due to a lack of industrial categories, some key components still have to be recovered from the wasteland, so every set of power armor is numbered. There's no way to get them in batches, even for just 1 or 2 sets. I'd have to find a way. The company that produces power armor doesn't have a good relationship with my family. Your family? So you glanced at Xuanxing calmly. No wonder she became a general at such a young age. She must come from some big family. But seeing the power armor on her, Suyu was puzzled. That's not right. Since it's so hard to get, why did you say 10,000 tons of grain would buy me the power armor you're wearing? If you don't want it, isn't it different? Xuanxing shook her head. The company that produces power armor doesn't have a good relationship with my family, but these pre-war power armors have nothing to do with them. There are hundreds of these power armors inside. If I give you one, I can just go get another. Suyu, alright. Communicating with rich people is too troublesome. He opened his personal panel and traded the prepared supplies to Xuanxing. This is the payment for the gun. Let's settle the trade. Xuanxing looked at the fruit, vegetables, beef, and 10 tons of grain on the panel. Her eyes lit up. She looked like a money grubber, but then, as if she remembered something, she quickly said, "Right. When I was clearing that shelter earlier, I found something good inside. You'll definitely be interested." Saying that, she tapped on her personal panel. A 4 to 5 meter high, 10 meter long, black cube lie wall suddenly appeared in the meeting room. She smiled at Suyu. "Have you heard of a black box?" Suyu shook his head. "You know what a 3D printer is, right?" Seeing him nod, Xuanxing continued. "This thing has roughly the same function as a 3D printer, but it's much more powerful. It was produced by those top scientists in the prosperous era who foresaw the wasteland era after the war, specifically to help humans rebuild the world. Each black box can only produce one type of product. For example, the one in front of you is a black box for producing heavy exoskeletons. The operation is very simple. Pour the required materials into the intake. If the recipe needs charcoal, throw in charcoal. If it needs iron, throw in iron ingots. Iron ore works too. In short, throw the materials in and you don't have to worry about it. Just wait for the finished product to come out on the other side. Foolproof operation. Even a gorilla could use it. At full capacity, it can produce about 500 heavy exoskeletons a day. After wearing these exoskeletons, a soldier can carry a load of 1 ton and move up to 100 kilometers per hour. Power armor is too expensive. It's impossible to equip everyone. Even in the pre-war prosperous era, the rank-and-file soldiers in the army usually just fought in these exoskeletons. That's amazing. Suyu's eyes lit up as he looked at it. Damn, if I buy this, I'll instantly become an arms dealer. I won't have to worry about making money. Bluestar also has exoskeletons, but they're barely better than nothing. Compared to this heavy exoskeleton, they're far behind. However, even in his excitement, he hadn't completely lost his mind. He asked back, According to the law of conservation of mass, this thing consumes a lot of energy, right? What does it run on? It comes with a small fourth-generation nuclear fusion reactor inside. The helium-free stored in the reactor is enough for it to run at full capacity for 5 years. Calculated, it can produce a million exoskeletons. Shuangxing spread her hands. This thing was designed for the wasteland world. The goal was to allow people to produce things, even with the most basic raw materials when they have nothing. The problems you're worried about were basically all considered by its designers. If you have to talk about problems, it would be after 5 years. If you can't get high-purity helium-3, the reactor will shut down and it won't work. Suyu nodded. After pondering for a moment, he tentatively asked, so you intend to sell it to me? Of course, otherwise why would I tell you so much? Shuangxing gave him a strange look. Since you said heavy exoskeletons are good things that your pre-war army used as a main force, then I guess you're short on them too, right? Suyu asked curiously. Of course we're short, but does that conflict with you selling it to me? Shuangxing sneered. Future City has regulations. During the process of clearing a shelter, all spoils of war must be turned in. I found this by accident and put it into my platform inventory. No one else knows. If I take it back and use it myself, if someone finds out, it'll be confiscated, and I won't get any benefits. Why not just sell it to you? Anyway, I have power armor. I don't need this thing. Suyu, alright, that's a very real reason, compared to turning it into Future City and getting nothing at all. For Shuangxing, it's definitely better to. So what price do you intend to sell it for? 100 tons of fruit, vegetables, and beef. 500 tons of grain. Shuangxing shrugged her shoulders. She stated her conditions. That's it. Anyway, I have power armor, so I don't need this thing. Suyu, oh cool, that's a solid reason, compared to handing it over to Future City and getting nothing in return. For Shuangxing, it's indeed better to sell it to him. So what price are you planning to sell it for? 100 tons each of fruits, vegetables, and beef. 500 tons of grain. Shuangxing shrugged, stating his terms. That's it. Suyu paused. It wasn't expensive, it was cheap. Way too cheap. I mean, just yesterday, that pistol was worth 10 tons of fruit, 10 tons of veggies, and 10 tons of beef. Anyone with a brain knows this black box is worth way more than that piece of junk. And yet, here we are. He wondered if Shuangxing had lost her mind. But then he thought, why complain if she's selling it cheap? He shut his mouth and agreed to the deal. Once the contract was signed by both sides, Suyu could take the item home. He just had to pay the balance on time. Looking at his new prize, Suyu felt like he'd hit the jackpot. But just as he was basking in his victory, Shuangxing, having finished the paperwork, wore a look of pure relief. She said cheerfully, don't celebrate yet. We have another deal to discuss. Another deal? Suyu was stunned. What else have you got? Plenty, Shuangxing replied. Suddenly, she produced a small, palm-sized black rectangle. She tossed it onto the table in front of him. A solid-state battery for exoskeleton modules. One single battery like this can power a heavy exoskeleton at full load for a ton of weight, running for 3,000 kilometers straight. The energy density in this thing is about 900 times that of gasoline. Suyu was stunned for a long moment. He slowly turned his neck, glancing at the massive black box nearby. This thing only makes exoskeletons, not batteries, obviously. The power consumption must be astronomical. In reality, building an exoskeleton like this, the materials and design are huge hurdles. But with 8 or 10 years, we could crack it. The real problem is